Can you see this? I'm super excited, if you can tell. This is going to be probably one of my most favorite brand reviews ever, because we are going to do this a little bit different. You know, I hate when creators do gatekeep shit or are like, oh, and today I want to do this, but if you want to see the result, go to this video. I do this sometimes too, but for the most part, I try to inform you as good as I can. That's why today's video is a 3-in-1. So we have a brand review of the brand MAC, as you've seen in the title. We also have first impressions, because I actually bought stuff specifically for this video. And we also have a little bit of a trip down the memory lane, because I myself do have a special connection with the brand MAC, and I wanted to combine all of those videos. So brand review, memory shit, first impression, wear test thingies. And the first impression is not only on products that are like new from the brand, it's also from products that I never tried before, even 10 years back. So let's go. So you might know MAC Cosmetics as a brand has been around forever. And by forever, I mean nearly 40 years. MAC Cosmetics was founded in 1984. I mean, 1984. That is 7 years before I was even born. Like, what the fuck? They have been around forever. And the brand has been founded actually in Toronto by the two makeup artists, Frank Toscan and Frank Angelo. MAC, if you didn't know this, is just an acronym for Makeup Art Cosmetics. But you might think, now wait, but isn't MAC like part of Estee Lauder? Yes, they are, but only since 1998, where they were acquired completely by Estee Lauder. The good thing is I do have nearly a full face of MAC product. Like, there are just a few categories missing here. And the first one that I have now is eye primer. If you have been on YouTube, or beauty YouTube, in 2014, 2015, and so on, there was literally no video that you could have watched without somebody saying, we're starting this look with MAC Painterly Paint Pot. And I never ever used a paint pot in my life. So this is definitely a first time for me. I don't even know if Painterly is matching me because it looks a bit dark. Oh, it could work, we will see. And I never used paint pots because I just was not able to afford them, since this motherfucker is, I think, like 24 euro. Today I'm like, oh, that's actually quite cheap. But 10 years ago, I was not able to afford this. So do you maybe remember there really was a dupe in the drugstore? Maybelline had their color tattoos, and they had a nude color as well. And I used of that nude color from the color tattoos like 2 or 3 pots in my life, because they were so good. So let's now, oh, it's a fresh Painterly. Oh, I'm so excited. Let's just take some with a brush, because I always apply eye primer with a brush. Oh yeah, that matches me. Oh, that's cool. I don't even know how much you're supposed to use of that, but I just try to do a equally thin layer as I would in a normal eye primer. I always loved how Painterly Paint Pot just cancelled out any discolorations on the lid, and sometimes I do have like veins going on, but they're like not as prominent as for some others, but I still like how this is just evening out the canvas. So the intention of the founders was actually to provide just professional makeup to models and makeup artists, but once they started doing this on models, who was it? Frank Toscan stated it, that he wanted to manufacture makeup for models, but then when they started to use that, their sisters and families wanted to have it too, and so on and so on, so they started to selling stuff to private customers. And as of 1990, they already had over 100 stores worldwide. And in 1994, the company Estee Lauder bought 51% of the MAC company. And what they then did was they started like the business end, while the two founders, Frank and Frank, still were the creative minds behind the brand. Unfortunately, in 1997, Frank Angelo died from a cardiac arrest from a surgery. He was only 49, so quite young. And shortly after that, Estee Lauder bought the rest of the company, because the other founder, Frank Toscan, he sold his remaining shares on the brand, and he just left the brand completely after that. So then in 1998, the whole transition to the umbrella of Estee Lauder was finished then. What have I done in 1998? In 1998, I was 7 years old and I went to primary school and makeup was definitely not a thing. But let's play forward a couple of years because now I want to start my personal trip of the MAC memory lane. When I was 20, my personal makeup experience was not there. I used a lot of drugstore shit like P2, if you remember that, fellow Germans, P2, the drugstore brand. I mean, they were quite good for the price tag. And I had no idea of how to do proper makeup. I used kind of foundations, but they all had like this line because they were too dark. And when I was 20, I did an apprenticeship in the gastronomic side, and my school was in a bigger city. And that bigger city had a MAC store. And one day I just strolled through the mall. I was there at the MAC store and I was like, what are these prices? What the fuck? So I saved some money and then I went into that MAC store and I met a wonderful girl there who was very, very friendly. So nothing like the TikTok videos you see about MAC employees. She was absolutely the sweetest. And she gave myself a complete rundown of MAC products. And the first product then that I ever bought from MAC was a primer, because I never had heard of primer before, and it was the MAC Prep and Prime Skin Base. I bought this new for the video. And I haven't used this in like 2 years, but before that I went through 3 or 4 of these bottles. If you've seen my review on the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base, because this is the primer that basically does nothing than a prepping layer. If you want to have something similar, MAC Prep and Prime Skin. This stuff is so good. I'm super excited to use this now again. It's this white cream. It actually smells just like a moisturizer and you apply this all over the face just like a primer since it is a priming moisturizer. But just as the Bobbi Brown Skin Base, this does not change the appearance of your skin. It does not mattify anything or add luminizing shit. It has no glitter. It's not pore filling. It's just a priming base. And that is what I absolutely love about this. And I'm actually super happy to have this video just to justify purchasing this again. I just love this. I highly, highly recommend this. So let me just apply some concealer on weird places in my face. And no, I will not stop doing this. I got a comment on the House Labs brand review telling me how unhelpful that is because I already have applied concealer and shit. And I just want to clarify that once more. When I do first impression reviews, or in general, how a foundation works, I will apply this the way I always apply foundation, because if I would not do this, my review would be false. Because as soon as the video is done and I apply this foundation maybe the next day, I would do it completely different. So what is the purpose of changing it just for a video? That's just lying to me. I don't have a specific under eye setting powder from MAC. I do have a face powder that we are going to use, but I always use my under eye setting powder to set down any eye primer that I use. I know when you have a good eye primer, you don't need that, but I just think blending makes it so much easier when you have a powdered base. But that's completely just my personal preference. You can do this completely different if you want to. So between 1998 and 2012, not a lot of stuff happened. MAC just constantly was developing products, opening stores, gaining sales, and be just successful as they are. But then in 2012, something amazing happened because MAC in India brought out their first celebrity collab, and that was with, and I have to read of that name, Selena Quintanilla Perez. I think that's the correct name. She was simply known as Selena, and she was a singer who was shot in 1995, and her sister actually worked with MAC to create a collection that fully represented her. I am going to put up a picture of this collection here. I mean, look at this iconic purple packaging. I kind of do remember this collection. Like, I think it was not in the stores here in Germany, but I kind of remember seeing it maybe on YouTube. This collection was sold out in hours, not only in stores, but also on Nordstrom, Macy's, Bloomingdale's or Bloomingburg? Bloomingdale's. Bloomingburg is something else. But you know what I mean. In December 2016, MAC brought back this specific collection due to the high demand, and still to this day, this is just so iconic. Still to this day, this collection is the best-selling celebrity makeup collaboration in all cosmetic and makeup history. And if we just take a look specifically to MAC history, this is, of course, the best-selling collection, and this is followed by the Mariah Carey collection, Rihanna, and Nicki Minaj. And I think still to this day, their collections, their collabs with different celebrities are an important part of the MAC brand itself, because when you see the normal releases, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, it's this and that from MAC, it's this and that from MAC, and no, I'm not interested in this and that from MAC. But as soon as there's a celebrity name behind that, people are like losing their shit. Back to my personal history with MAC. I had 4 eye products from MAC. I had the Club eyeshadow, the blue brown pigment, the tan pigment, and I had a special edition that contained 5 little pigments, and I have no idea what these were called. Do you remember Club eyeshadow from MAC? It was this shifty shade from green to brown, and blue brown pigment was basically the same, just in the pigment. And I remember I had to buy the Club eyeshadow and those pigments in London when I worked there, because it was not available in Germany. I was never able to afford MAC single eyeshadows, and I was so jealous or envious. I never remember what to say in what situation, but I looked at other people's MAC eyeshadow collection. I was like, one day I will have that too. And you know what? Today is the day where I could afford this, and I don't even like MAC eyeshadows. I have one MAC eyeshadow palette, and that is from the newer Connect and Color collection, and this is the Embedded in Burgundy. This is the one that I kept. I also had the 12 pen version with the neutrals, and this was one of the worst eyeshadow palettes I've ever used. I decluttered this after one use and even contacted the shop where I bought this palette and sent it back due to this bad quality. But the Embedded in Burgundy is actually quite nice, so don't expect anything like new or special, but it's a solid good palette, a 6-pan palette in my opinion. So I'm starting the look with Ho or Hoax. I think it's Ho because it's the French name. Using this as regular transition shade. And I love that this look might match my hair color today. By the way, the tutorial that I did with this eyeshadow palette is the first video I uploaded this year on YouTube. It's like, I don't know, 3 minutes long or so. It's like a mini tutorial. And when I uploaded this, I did not know that YouTube does not allow like vertical format videos only for minutes. So this is uploaded as a normal YouTube video, and it's just so bad. But recently somebody commented asking me if I have other of the Connect and Color palettes. No, I don't, and I also don't want to buy more of these. I saw the review from Teresa's dad on the colorful 12 pen one that had like a blue and I think green, and like it looks really, really nice, like a more grown up rainbow take, but that quality is also awful. And I actually asked myself, why do I not like MAC eyeshadows now, even though I can now afford them and they could be part of me? And I was so in love back then, but it's the same as with Anastasia Beverly Hills that I said in my brand review last week. Modern Renaissance, at the time it launched in 2015, 2016, that eyeshadow quality was the GOAT. It was the only thing that you know was good. The other things were like trash. And same it was with MAC eyeshadows at that time, because the quality was just, for the time that this was released, perfect. But now in 2023, the eyeshadow qualities, they have just improved so much. And I'm not only talking high end, I mean, look at BH Cosmetics. I mean, I cannot wear BH Cosmetics eyeshadows because there's something in there that makes my eyes like getting a rash. Or e.l.f. bite-sized quads. You know, I'm not a drugstore girl, but these are fucking good. In general, Wet n Wild, those 10 pen palettes, they have such a good quality, and all of these are better than MAC, to be honest. So I'm going to continue this look with Wanna Chat. And I apply this on a denser brush in the crease. I probably like this eyeshadow palette so much because I love just purple and burgundy eyeshadows a lot. I think that suits my whole complexion and not only the hair. I'm going back into Ho. I think it's Ho, but if I say Ho, that might sound wrong. But I go back into that shade and I soften out the edges of Wanna Chat a bit. The good thing is when I do eyes before face, I can work as messy as I want because we are going to clean the shit out of my face. Let's do some trusty glitter glue. When I gathered the products for this look, oh, by the way, I am now moving on with the shade Loading, which is this metallic purple, and I apply this just all over the lid. When I gathered the products for this look and I scrolled through actually Beauty Bay because they were the first shop for me where I was able to buy the specific foundation that we are going to talk about in a second, I really wanted to get one of the pigments again. I don't know what it is, but these big containers, they will last you a fucking lifetime. But then I was like, okay, now be realistic. Am I using loose pigment eyeshadows? Absolutely not and never. I don't like the way they work. I don't like the way they have to be used. You have to be quite careful using them. It is just not for me, so mature me didn't buy these. I'm now going into Giga Glitz, which is this shade, and I apply this in the center of the lid, just for a little bit of more dimension. I mean, don't get me wrong, I see how people still in 2023 like these eyeshadows because they're not loud. This is colorful. This is a purple, colorful burgundy eye. This is intense, a little bit of smoky, and we will get very smoky when we're done. But it's not loud. It's sophisticated. It gives off kind of a professional take, but it's not my taste in makeup anymore. So I love that I have this eyeshadow palette, and that's why I didn't declutter it so far, and I probably won't, at least not this year. I like to have it also as a reference, kind of, but it is not what I prefer. So MAC eyeshadow releases is something that I just don't look forward to. So let's now just clean this mess up a bit so that we can move on with the face. When I gathered the products, I also was thinking of getting the concealer that not only did I love 10 years ago, but I used this concealer as actually foundation a long time, and it's the MAC Pro Longwear Concealer. And if you remember this concealer, it has the worst packaging ever. Well, no, not anymore, because the other concealer from MAC that I have, that has the worst packaging ever. But it was a pump, and I just remember like how people constantly dropped that fucking concealer and then it was all over the place and it was spilled and shit. But the Pro Longwear Concealer was just so fucking awesome. I love this. The only thing I don't like as of today is they actually don't have my shade. So the lightest shade in the Pro Longwear Concealer is actually an NC15, but it won't work because in my foundation I'm an NC10, so I don't see how this would work. So I just applied some of the Rare Beauty Under Eye Brightening stuff and some Fenty Ease Droplet as my glow stuff. And I decided to go with the Fenty Ease Droplet because this has the least amount of glow in my glowing primer collection, since the foundation that we are going to use has the name Radiant to it. So I'm now also applying a bit of corrector on my under eyes. Oh, by the way, I asked a couple weeks ago on my Instagram, what kind of correctors can you recommend? Because my Charlotte Tilbury one has now a big pan to it, and I think I might finish this anytime soon. And you recommended either the Bobbi Brown corrector or a lot of you the Becca one. Like Becca is now under the umbrella of Smashbox, and actually I got both. We're using today the new MAC Studio Radiant Serum Powered foundation. And now again, back to memory, because the first foundation that I got, and this is actually my third bottle now, is the MAC Studio Fix Fluid. This foundation is still to this day a staple on my collection. I cannot get rid of it. I decluttered my old bottle 1.5 years ago, and I had like a quarter left in it. So I thought, okay, it smells a little bit fuzzy, so let's get just rid of it. And I went without one half a year or maybe 9 months, and then I just had the urge to put this back in. I don't know what it is, but MAC Studio Fix Fluid is a foundation that needs to be in my collection because it has the perfect amount of coverage. It is medium leaning full, but it's not cakey full. It's easy spreadable. NC10 is my perfect foundation match. So whenever I do match myself to a new foundation, I use websites like foundation.com or sometimes the Temptalia foundation matrix. MAC NC10 is like the baseline of all my foundations. That's why in the new Studio Radiance I also got NC10, and I have not seen a review on this foundation. I know that Patty Alonso did one, and I kind of remember that the title was something like "Do not expect so much," but she changed the title or the thumbnail or whatever. But now we're just making our own little picture of this, and I love that you have this one, and you don't have to buy an extra pump, because with Studio Fix Fluid still to this day does not come with a pump. You have to buy one separately. So the consistency of this foundation is kind of similar to Studio Fix Fluid. So I see that it's not like runny, it's liquidy, it's okay. And I just apply this in dots all over my face, and then I'm going to blend this in with a brush. I always do brush first and then sponge to even out. So I actually don't like a few streaks because you can even out everything with a sponge. I like the coverage a lot. I mean, do you see that match? I'm just happy now. I mean, upon first application, like the first blending in, I like it, but of course we have to wait how the day is going. Of course, I do have some dry patches around these areas where I have like dry skin laying around, but I didn't want to pull the dry skin off. Otherwise, these wounds would be open again and bleed a bit. So I can just live with this. I love it. I really do. Like first application, tick, approved. But we will see how this is lasting throughout the day. As I said, I wanted to order the Pro Longwear concealer, but then I was like, oh wait, I do have a MAC concealer. And I already uploaded, I think it was only on TikTok and Instagram, because again, YouTube does not allow more than 60 seconds in a short video, but the MAC Studio Fix Everywhere Concealer Pan. This is award for worst packaging ever, because you have to twist the bag open and then you basically click out and the concealer is squirting out. So I have to apply this on a surface here. Maybe you are a bit confused because look at the tip. This is the shade NC12 because I thought, oh, when I'm in an NC10 in a foundation, NC12 should definitely match since it does not go any lighter. But NC12 is white. But you know what? This concealer is actually magic. Like you see, way too light. I'm having like 2015 makeup strokes right now. But when I blend this out, it melts into my skin color. Like what kind of magic is in here? It works so well. So let me just blend that out a bit, like so. So you see it's still a bit light. I also have to admit that I just applied a tiny bit too much. And now I'm going over it again with a sponge. And you see it? My under eye area is brightened. It is like really, really brightened, but it's not white anymore like it looked upon first application, and I just love this super smooth look on the face. I feel so soft and smooth, like I feel filtered. Again, first impression application, I'm totally overwhelmed and happy, but that could change like really fast. I don't have cream products from MAC for the face, so I do not have one of the Glow Play blushes. I used to have one, but I used to have two, but I decluttered both. I don't even know if they have a cream highlighter or a cream bronzer. I don't think they do, so I take this opportunity to try out something else that is new to my collection. It's the Made by Mitchell Curve case. And this comes with 8 cream shades. All of these shades are also available in the liquid version, but I thought it might be a nice way to try a bit more of Made by Mitchell. And actually the only shades that I do have from this is this shade. This is Hollow There. I have this as a liquid contour shade. I love this. And this one, this is Cold Hard. I do have the liquid blush of this. Awesome shade. So the other 6 are new to me, so I'm fine with that. So I used this shade. This is Cool Lective. Like, the shades are hilarious. And I just dipped my brush a bit into this, and I used this as contour shade. Oh, okay. Let's dip a bit deeper. Oh, there it is. All right, now I can see anything. Am I crazy? Or does this look green? I'm not too sure about the undertone that is going on here. If I would only use cream products, I probably would not like this, but I always use a powder bronzer contour on top. So mixed in with something else, this might look cool. So let's just move on with the makeup. And since the eyes are this burgundy shade, I'm also using Cold Hard. I know this blush already, and I know that I love it. It's a nice, cool tone. Pink. Ooh. Note to myself, these are just as freaking pigmented as the liquid versions, so don't go overboard. I just wiped off my brush in a towel. I'm now just blending that in. By the way, I'm using the Rose Ink number 2 brush. I know a lot of people don't like this specific brush because it is a bit scratchy, and I have to agree, but at the same time, I just love the way this applies cream blushes. Oh, I love that look. And since there is no cream highlight in there, I'm going in with ColourPop. What's it? Lunch Money, I think? Yeah, it's Lunch Money. It's part of my Project Pan items. It's one of the few that I actually apply with my finger. I just set my under area with the Westman Atelier translucent powder, so let's move on with the eye look and finish it. I actually don't have a pencil liner from MAC, but I know they are very, very good, and I think it was Teddy is that shade that everybody loves, this like very rich brown, but as I don't have one, we are also not using one for the eye look. Instead, I'm going in with Mega Mocha on a very, very thin brush, and I just line this underneath the lashes and press it into the lashes. I'm currently testing out these Spectrum Sculpt brushes that came in a set because they were on like a summer sale, and this whole set was €105 instead of, I think 190 is the full price, and I was like, oh, cash it in, I take it. You can never have too many brushes, in my opinion. So now I'm going in with Wanna Chat again, and we are smoking that out. For a little bit more of a smokiness, I'm going in with Ho again, and I apply this on top and take this even further down so that we have a nice burgundy smoked out eye. Reminds me a lot of my emo times when I was 14. I used to wear my eyeshadow down that far too, but the difference is I had no idea about eyeshadow techniques and everything was black and pink. So for inner corner highlight, I'm using Naked Lunch here in the middle, and I remember that Naked Lunch was one of these shades that everybody used to love. I think Naked Lunch, and then there was another shade. Nylon. I think MAC Nylon was also one of these like very shiny inner corner highlight shades that everybody just loved. And that is now the finished look without mascara, but we are going to use, of course, a MAC mascara afterwards. But now let's move on with powder. And I finally got my hands on the new MAC Studio Fix Pro Set and Blur Powder. I used to own the MAC's Mineralize Skin Finish, and I also used to own the MAC Studio Fix Powder. You know, when you have stickers like that, you have this like corner that's a bit longer than the rest, so you can grab it there and rip it off, and I ripped off that corner now. Let me take some tweezers. The patient's still alive. So it comes with a little puff. Look at this. And since I am newly a puff girl, I will use the puff to set my face. The puff perfectly fits into that powder, but it is so finely milled. Holy fuck, that's a mess. It actually smells a bit weird, and nothing is sticking to that puff. Like, what the fuck? Do you see this? Okay. Let's not use a puff. Let's try a brush. And I take my Pat McGrath powder brush, and I just swipe this on my face. I feel like 50% of the powder is just flying around here. Since this is so finely milled, it kind of squirts out, sneezes out in every direction. Let's give the puff a second chance, because I feel like this is definitely benefiting from a puff. But it's like nothing is sticking to that shitting puff. My face feels like a velvet surface. Nothing is sticky anymore. But it does not feel powdered. I mean, I clearly have to test it out more with other foundations. And as of today, we will see how this lasts all day long. So far, I feel it looks nice, but it emphasized a lot of these dry patches even more. But I think that's also kind of normal with finely milled powders like that. So it's not specifically the fault of this powder. So I did my brows really quick off camera. Now let's move on to bronzer. And I never owned the bronzer from MAC until now. These are the new MAC Sunstruck bronzers, and they do have a matte finish and a radiant finish. And I wanted to try the shade Light Rosy because this has a pinkish undertone, and I think, and I even saw this on other people, like how awesome this looks when you have such a pale skin as mine. But they were out in the radiant finish, so here we have the matte finish of this. I take my NARS, I don't even know what this brush is called, but it's a NARS brush. I just slightly swipe through this and apply this here. Oh, I love the rosy undertone. I don't even know if you can see this, but it looks awesome. It has something very, very natural to it, in my opinion. Oh, I like this. I really like this. The packaging though, super cheap. And it even, like this textured foil that is just sticked on top, it even came off in some places. So packaging 0 out of 10, but product, you know, it's subtle, it's light, it is something that I sometimes want to have. You know, I'd rather have a low pigmented bronzer than a too pigmented bronzer, if that makes sense at all. I don't have a blush or a highlighter, but I have stories to tell. So for blush, I'm using the House Labs Dragon Fruit Days because it looks just awesome on top of that liquid blush. I remember so many people were in love with the blush. I think it was Melba. That was one of those like peachy glow blushes. But they kind of changed the formula and the shade, and so everybody was super, super disappointed. I used to have a MAC magnetic single palette where you were able to put in 6 different pro blushes, and I used to have actually 2 shades of this. And not only did I have blushes, I also had the famous Emphasize powder. Do you remember that? That was everything Jaclyn Hill used for her under eyes. Emphasis was the goat. Emphasize, not emphasis, emphasize. And I'm currently on the website and I really have to look for them because they seem to not have these blushes anymore. They do have sculpting powders, then we have eyeshadow and the shaping powders, but they do not have the blushes anymore. And I cannot, for the sake of my life, remember what blushes I owned. Oh, this is so sad. One was very, very light pink. MAC pink blush. So let me Google that. I just want to know which shade this was. I found a Reddit post. I would really like to know if the MAC Pro Blush Insert are getting discontinued because they cannot find them anymore. Oh, this is so sad. And nobody answered. Oh, did somebody answer? I wouldn't give up, yeah. Oh no! They seem to be discontinued. So bad that these pro things got discontinued because I love that you could just like put them in a magnetic pen. But okay, enough ranting about that. And I remember that I wanted to have a certain highlighter so bad, and I went to 2 different cities to get this fucking highlighter, and it was MAC Mineralized Skin Finish in Lightscapade. I actually decluttered Lightscapade like 1.5 years ago. I think it's even somewhere in my Instagram because I just didn't like the finish anymore. But I do have a highlighter that is similar to Lightscapade, but it's more intense. It is more of what I like today. And it's the Too Faced, what's it called? Too Faced Diamond Fire highlight in this diamond shape. This looks very similar to Lightscapade, since Lightscapade was this you had purple, you had blues, you had pinks, and it was all marbled. But since it was a mineralized skin finish, it was very, very subtle to the skin. While this Diamond Fire from Too Faced is very intense. It's more of a duochrome holographic sheen, and that is just what I prefer today. Let me just set my face, and no, we're not using Fix Plus because Fix Plus is not a setting spray, it's a finishing spray, and we will use this as the very last step. But to set my face, I use the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Setting Spray. Let's do mascara. And you know, MAC and mascara was always a match made in heaven. I don't know what is in their mascara, but most of them are just fantastic. There was this 3D Dimension Lash. I love this to death. And in general, lash products, MAC Lash Curler. The first one that I had over 10 years. This is a new one that I bought because mine just got like super used and wonky wanky. So I just picked up a new one last year and I just love this. This has the perfect shape for my eye. It is just perfect. So for the sake of this video, I usually would use a lash primer, but we don't do this because I want to show you my new favorite MAC mascara, and this is MAC Stack. This came out last year, I think. This year? No, I think it was last year because I already used up one of these. And this is just awesome. This mascara is basically designed to be stacked on top of each layer so that you have non-clumpy lashes but buildable, thick. I sometimes struggle with certain words, and long lashes. So let's apply the first layer of this. This is one of the few mascaras I could use or I can use without a lash primer because it's just so good. And the MAC Stack Mascara actually comes in 2 different sizes. So there is also a micro brush. It's basically the same but smaller, that is specifically designed for your lower lashes. But personally, I can work on the lower lashes with the big one too. You just have to do the mascara face. So this mascara claims to be stackable for an infinite times. So you can build up your desired thickness and length. By the way, do you also have a good and a bad eye? I think my lashes on the left eye look so much better than on the right eye. And this is still not enough for me, so let's go with the third layer. I mean, this is the result from one mascara. Usually I get these lashes by like adding 4 mascaras, 4 different ones on top of each other. It is such a good mascara. I think 3 layers is more than enough, and I love it. I really do. And I smudged a bit of mascara on me, so let me just flick it off. Let mascara dry and then take the spoolie again. Before we head into lips and into the final things about the brand history itself, I want to talk to you about something that is not really a makeup item, but that I use every single day from MAC. I think since 2014 now, since I discovered this basically, and it's the MAC brush cleanser. This is not empty, there's still a bit in there. I do fill this in one of those spray bottles, and then I just spray it on a paper towel, and then I rub my brushes off, and this is the way I spot clean them. And when the spot cleaning is not enough anymore, I put them in a bag, and then I do like every 8 or 9 weeks a big washing session where I deep clean them. But this for spot cleaning, chef's kiss. I think if you were able to skip MAC products, or to not even hear about their foundation, eyeshadows, pro palettes, and all the shit that we just talked about, there are, in my opinion, certain things in the line you cannot ignore, and that is lip products. MAC lip liner. But I bought now one lip liner because I used to have, I had Stone, I had Half Red, all the iconic shades I owned. And now I decided to go with Oak because I think this is like a very versatile nude brown that just matches everything. Oh, and before we go into that, one thing. As I said, I got a free kit. And in that kit was also a MAC Prep and Prime Lips. This is basically a priming lip balm, I think. I never used this, so let's see how this is going. I don't even know how much I'm supposed to use of this. Basically applied this now all over the lips. Feels very hydrating, liking. And now I apply the lip liner. The shade is actually a bit warmer than I thought, but I think it can work. Remember those old YouTube videos where people were, oh, this is my MAC lipstick collection, and then they pulled out 40 of them because the MAC lipsticks come in very different finishes. You have the mattes, you have the cream sheen lipsticks, then we have luster glass. Is there something else? I think there are more than this, but I have 2. I have one in the matte formula, and this is the iconic Velvet Teddy. Remember this? Kylie Jenner used to wear Velvet Teddy and it was sold out, I feel like in minutes. And I know that I felt super duper lucky when I was able to get a Velvet Teddy. But I also ordered a luster glass, and this is Thanks It's MAC, because this shade is currently super duper viral on TikTok. And I think this might be a perfect nude shade for me. So since I know Velvet Teddy, I've actually used up a Velvet Teddy nearly complete. I'm going to use the Thanks It's MAC shade. So the luster glass formula is a bit more see-through and very shiny in the finish. If you want to know what lip color I'm wearing, Thanks It's MAC. Oh, fuck me, it's so beautiful. I used to have a lot of MAC lipsticks. Let me just Google that shade that I used up a lot, because there was a specific lip color and I think I went through 2 or 3 bullets of this shade. Here, I have it. They have a satin lipstick, Brave, this shade. I went through multiple bullets of Brave. I used to love this. I was obsessed with Brave because this was my first MAC lipstick ever. So I'm now going on top of everything with a finishing powder. I'm using the Hourglass one in the shade Mood Light for that, just to give some glow back that might got lost while setting the face. And we will finish this by using a finishing spray. The finishing spray is not for setting. A setting spray is meant to make your makeup last a bit longer, while a finishing powder is meant to melt the makeup, to basically just mush everything together so you don't see like, oh, she's wearing cakey foundation or she's doing a dry powder. Let's just spray some Fix Plus. And by the way, I do have not the original one, this is the coconut scent. Okay, so this is now the finished nearly full face of MAC makeup with a lot of first impressions. And let me just finish this video by telling you something about like controversies. So first of all, we have a bigger controversy in 2010 where MAC released the Raw Dart collection. This was in collaboration with the Fashionably Bizarre Raw Dart, which is based on the border of Ciudad Juárez, which is a city that was mainly known for its problem with violence against women, a lot of homicide against women. And basically everything that was related to that city later was renamed, and even before they distributed the product, the whole collection was cancelled, and instead MAC did a charity which raised about $2 million in 3 years. Then we also have something very, very cool, and I think that is one of the most popular things at MAC, Viva Glam. What is Viva Glam? Very easy. It's the AIDS and HIV fund they have, where they basically raise 100% of every sales commission they do from a Viva Glam lipstick goes to this fund. And this was founded in 1994, and the first spokesperson was RuPaul. We all know who RuPaul is. Even though you don't watch RuPaul's Drag Race like I do, I still know who he is. And let me just tell you some of the highlights of Viva Glam. In 1995, we have Marc Jacobs, Vivienne Westwood, and Catherine Hamnett that participated to create Viva Glam 1, so like the very first lipstick. 1996, we have Viva Glam 2, that was done by Katie Lang. In 2006, Viva Glam 6, for example, with Dita Von Teese. While 2008, we had a Viva Glam 6 special edition that was done by Fergie from the Black Eyed Peas. And then in 2018, we had Viva Glam with Sia, which was a red Viva Glam lipstick. In my opinion, a bit controversial because Sia is like, I'm a bit on the fence about her. And just as a general info, the current bestsellers according to the MAC website are the Studio Fix Powder, love that, the Studio Fix Foundation, have that, and their lip liners. To be honest, there is so much more to cover in MAC history. Like, this is not even close of being all, but I could fill maybe a 2-hour-long video on that, because when a brand is existing since the 80s, there is a lot of things they went through, a lot of things they changed, a lot of things to research, but I try to maybe minimize it a bit. So I would put my final thoughts on the foundation because I will not do check-ins as of today since I do have to film a couple of videos, but I will put the final thoughts on the foundation and the wear test and all that in the info box down below, so don't forget to check that out if you're interested in knowing how this foundation held up. And of course I will test it out even further with other primers and shit, because just because I know that it might work with the MAC Prep and Prime Skin Base does not mean it works with every single primer that I own. In general, in my info box you also have fun links to my TikTok and to Instagram, and of course to the Buy Me a Coffee website where you can basically donate money if you want to support this channel and my journey. You don't have to, so no pressure. Thank you for everybody who already donated money. You have no idea how I feel when this happens. It's like Christmas, and I know that I can reinvest that money into buying stuff, for example, for fun videos like this. Don't forget to subscribe and all that shit. You know how this thing works, and I will see you in the next one.